watching Numbskull News, and today we're going to talk about the Big 12 and where it's headed to. It's in a good place right now, I would say, with TCU making the playoff, but where does that lead? Where are we going beyond 2022? Let's take a look at it. But before we get there, we really got to assess where we're starting from. And like I said, we're starting with TCU getting into the college football playoff. Now, so let's take a look at the top four teams. That kind of gives us a little bit of an indication of where all the conferences are. So you got Ohio State at number 4. You got Michigan at number 2. So you got the Big Ten getting 2 teams into the playoff this year. So I would say that makes them the number 1 conference as far as right now. Georgia Bulldogs are the number 1 and best team in college football. I would say the SEC's the number 2 conference. One of the things I've continued to say for a while now is that the Big 12 is going to be the number 3 conference in all of college football. And here's TCU, number 3 in the college football playoff. Now you can say that this is kind of elementary school way of doing this. It's not exactly scientific. It's not. So let's go ahead and look at the top 12 teams. So the college football playoff is expanding to 12 teams shortly, very soon. So what would it look like this year if we had the 12-team playoff this year? And what does that indicate? Well, and keep in mind for this exercise, all blue bloods I am saying are either SEC or Big Ten, because that's where they're headed, and that's the reality of the situation. So USC, I'm not counting them as a Pac-12 school. They are a Big Ten school. If Texas or Oklahoma were up here somewhere instead of having sucky seasons, I would say those are SEC schools. And Clemson, I am not giving the ACC any love for Clemson because it's going to take a while, but as soon as 2036 comes around, we all know Clemson's gone. Florida State, they're gone. Period. End of story. So you don't get that. It's either Big Ten, SEC, I'm just going to give them a big old NA. Not applicable right now. And we'll see where they land in 2036. But I'm not giving the ACC guys, y'all got to get used to not counting Clemson and not counting Florida State as one of your own, because they're not going to be. We know Florida State's already been in talks with the Big Ten and the SEC. So I'm pretty damn sure Clemson and Miami or maybe a few other teams have as well. So I don't want to hear that crap. What can we glean from this? You got Ohio State, you got Michigan, and we keep on coming down, and I would give them USC, Penn State. That's 4 teams. That's 4 teams the Big Ten would have this year in the college football playoff if it was 12 teams this year. The SEC, they would have Georgia. They would have Alabama. They would have Tennessee. So they would have 3 teams in this year. So, just do the math, quick math. That's Big Ten number 1, SEC number 2. Where does that leave the Big 12? Well, you got TCU, of course, and Kansas State, number 11, would have made the playoff this year. However, the Pac-12 actually had a good year. I've given y'all a lot of shit, but look, Oregon State's been good. Utah's pretty damn good. Washington's good, and this is where you stand this year. Utah Utes, number 7, they're in. Washington at number 12, they sneak in. Now, I would give the Big 12 a little bit of an edge because TCU is number 3, and they're in the playoff this year. So, just by virtue of that, oh, and by the way, because I'm not including Clemson, ACC gets no teams. No teams in the top 12 this year. All right, and even if you want to count it, that's 1 team. 1. So, clearly, you're not really there. By the way, it would be like this for the last, 5, 6, 8 years or more. Clemson, when they're winning championships, Florida State, when they're winning championships, or Miami, when they're winning championships, you would rarely have any other teams of the ACC in the top 12. I mean, That's just the way that is. I'm sorry. I know I can't go off of everything with this. It's just one little indicator. It's all I'm using it for is a small little indicator. But there are more indicators. Let's go to this year's championship ratings for the conference games. All right, it's no surprise. The SEC championship, Georgia LSU, tops everybody at 10.89 million viewers. That's pretty damn salty. And again, no surprise with the Big Ten, even with Purdue. Even with Purdue. But, a ton of people watch Michigan, 10.7 million viewers. But look at number 3. Isn't it weird that the Big 12 keep coming up number 3? Kansas State, TCU, 9.41 million viewers. Right there with the big boys. They're just a little bit over 1 million away from the top 2. I mean, that's incredible, guys. And look here, all the way down at number 4, Pac-12, 5.97 million viewers. Couldn't get to 6. That's 3 million viewers less than the Big 12 championship. And look at the ACC. My God in heaven. Clemson and North Carolina. 3.47 million viewers. And look, I know ACC fans, well, we weren't playing for anything. Come on. We weren't playing for anything. What was Tulane and UCF playing for? Someone tell me that. Because that's 2.7 million viewers for the AAC championship, which is less than 1 million away from the ACC championship. I mean, the Mountain West wasn't all that far behind you. 1.94. Fresno State, Boise State. And look, everyone has blue bloods. Georgia, LSU, blue bloods. Michigan, a blue blood. USC, one of the great blue blood programs ever. Clemson, blue blood. North Carolina, I wouldn't call them blue blood, but, they're respected. And there's the Big 12, Kansas State and TCU. Come on. There's not 9.41 million people in Fort Worth or Manhattan, Kansas, combined, in the metro area, combined. There's not that many people. And by the way, in Pac-12, keep in mind, that 5.97 million viewers, that's a record for them. That's a record for their conference championship game. And we crushed them in the Big 12, destroyed them. I mean, that's embarrassing. And no blue blood program, like I said, Kansas State, TCU did that. What does that mean? Well, keep in mind, the Big Ten and the SEC, those are, as far as football fans, those are great areas for football fans, and it bears it out. I mean, you look at those numbers. Now you look at the Big 12. You could say, well, that was Ohio State fans watching to see if they can get in. No, it wasn't. They already knew they were in. USC had already lost. They knew they were in. They didn't have to watch little old Kansas State take on little old TCU. Who gives a shit? This is Big 12 country. This is Big 12 fans tuning in to watch their championship. And there's a lot of us. That's what it tells you. You look at the Pac-12. There's more people in Pac-12 country. Greater population centers out there. Obviously. California, the Bay Area, SoCal, Seattle, all that crap. There's just more people. There's not more fans. This bears it out because it's USC and Utah. USC was a one-loss team. Their one loss was to Utah. They're meeting in the conference championship game. If USC wins that, they're in the playoff. And you mean to tell me that's all you can muster is 5.97 million viewers? And like I said, the ACC, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for 3.47. If you're really that great of a conference, why aren't more people watching your conference championship game? Because there's nothing to play for? Are you kidding me? You got Clemson. You got North Carolina. Those are very, very valuable brands, especially Clemson. And yet you barely edge out Tulane and UCF. I'm sorry, but that's a great indicator of where the Big 12 is right now. There's another indicator. This is also about TV ratings, but this is for the entire season. All right, this is the average ratings per program for all of Division 1. So I pulled up the top 30. Of course, you can't see 1 through 6, but let me spoil it for you. It's Big 10 and it's SEC. Of course it is. Now, I'm not going to give the Big 12 any credit for Texas being up here at 8. No, that's an SEC team. That's the way I see it. But look at 12 and 13. Look at 12 and 13. TCU, 2.2 million viewers on average per week. Oregon, 2.21. I mean, TCU is right up there. And look, they're not going to be number 13 every year, TCU, because they're not going to be all that good every year. They're not going to be championship level good every year. But last year, on this guy, Zach Miller, sports journalist, he published one of these last year. I think TCU was ranked somewhere around, 18, 19, 20-ish, somewhere in there. And Oklahoma State actually had the top spot. I think they're at 11 last year, 11 or 12, somewhere in the same area, but TCU is in right now. If you keep going down this top 30 list, guys, all right, after Oregon, I'm not going to give you USC at 14. When you keep going down the list here, folks, I'm having a hard time finding another Pac-12 team or program. I'm just not seeing it. But what I do see, I see Oklahoma State at number 24, and I see Baylor at 29. I see Kansas State at number 30. So by my quick math, that's 4 teams we have in the top 30 in viewership. That's outstanding. And by the way, if you want to talk ACC, I'm not finding ACC teams here, folks. And everyone likes to shit all over themselves about Maryland leaving, and they're number 19, and they're not good. There's a reason the Big Ten snatched them up. But yeah, I'm not seeing any ACC teams in here. Now, we know Clemson is in here. We know Florida State's in here. But like I said, I'm not going to give you credit for your Blue Bloods if I'm not giving anyone else credit outside the Big Ten and SEC. They're the only ones. All the Blue Bloods are going there. Yours will too. So I'm not giving you credit. But inside the top 30, it's pretty evident that the little old Big 12 is the number 3 conference. So championship ratings, weekly ratings, average for the year, top 12 teams, the AP top 25, the top 12 teams that would have made the playoffs. All those indicators say that the Big 12 is the number 3 conference. I'm not saying individually the schools have any more value than ACC schools or Pac-12 schools that aren't Blue Bloods. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is we're doing a little more damage, and we got more fans watching our games than y'all have. That's what that indicates to me. So I gave y'all some evidence that we currently are the number 3 conference in the country. Now, if you look at the ACC, the Blue Bloods are still intact till 2036. So if they want to see that they themselves are the number 3 conference, I don't have a gripe about it. But if you don't talk to me about ratings, don't talk to me about results, because you don't have them. As a matter of fact, in the entire top 25, I think you'll have NC State number 25, and that's it, outside of the Blue Bloods. So don't brag too much. And like I said before, the Pac-12 banner year, really good year. They got several more teams in that top 25. So after Washington, there's Oregon, there's Oregon State. So yeah, I mean they've had an outstanding year. Now they may try to say, well, hey, we got more teams in the top 25. I'm like, yeah, but you would have the same amount of teams in the top 12 and not ranked as high as ours as far as number 3 goes. Where do we go moving forward? Well, in the immediate future, we're talking about the off season we're about to enter into after bowl season and after the playoff, of course. I'm really looking at what's going on in Colorado as far as the future. Dion is there. Colorado can't afford Dion. they have no money for their athletic program. It's been neglected for years and years, and all of a sudden, they're changing course. They're actually putting in a general studies course. And why would you have a general studies course for student athletes? Especially football and basketball players. They're wanting to compete. That's what it tells me. The NIL money has already started to roll in Colorado. Boosters who have, I don't blame them at all, have been sitting on their checkbooks are now pulling them out and getting their pen and saying, okay, coach, what you need. Why all of a sudden do that? For Amazon? No. That's because they're looking at the landscape of things. And they see that Disney's losing money, ESPN is on a tight budget, and how much are they really going to invest in the Pac-12? That's a big freaking question. And right now we don't know what Amazon is willing to pay or overpay for. And even if they are willing to give out a big chunk of change, you have to remember it's Amazon. And if you're not on ESPN, not on Fox, you got problems. You got a lot of problems. Visibility becomes a major problem. And maybe that's a problem that Colorado doesn't want. It's not hard to go back to the Big 12. But if you're going to go to the Big 12, you need to be football relevant. You just do. There's a lot of money to be made in the Big 12. You just got to have the will to go. And I think these are heavy indicators that say that they're ready to go. They're ready to do that. And there's nothing wrong with being a great academic university. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Here's been the problem with Colorado football, putting so much into their academics. There's these rare student athletes who are outstanding students, big time intellectual, book smart sons of bitches, right? And they're also very talented on the field. Usually you get more of one than the other. But, there are those individuals that can do both. They could be a freaking Rhodes Scholar and a starting defensive back. It happens. But if you're one of those rare athletes who can get into a big-time college football program that is also a big-time academic program, that's the type of kid who can keep up with both workloads and not be overwhelmed. So are you going to go to Colorado, or are you going to go to Notre Dame, who also has high academic standards? Or are you going to go to Stanford? You understand? I know Stanford, they're not some great football powerhouse or anything. They're a little bit more respectable than Colorado has been. But academically, if you look at the value of your diploma, a diploma from Stanford is a little more prestigious than one from Colorado. Same thing with Notre Dame. So you're dealing with other universities out there they're going to get all the best of the big brainiac players. Colorado's not going to get that. So in order to compete, yeah, you may have to get some of those kids who are smart, all right, but they're not some academic genius. They need a general studies program. So with all that, yeah, I fully expect that we hear something about Colorado jumping to the Big 12 within the next couple of months. It would shock me if it didn't happen. And Dion has tons of contacts all over Texas and Big 12 country. I mean, let's just start with Jerry Jones and go down from there. I mean, he knows a ton of people. I'm not saying he doesn't know people in California, but this is where his bread's buttered. And outside of that, I think there's at least going to be 3 more schools added from the Pac-12. It depends on who they are. It could be Oregon and Washington, could be Oregon State and Washington State, or Arizona. Now, the Utah athletic director has already tweeted out a little something. I think it was that John Kurtz, who covers the Big 12 and he covers Kansas State, when he was kind of mocking some of those TV numbers, championship numbers I was talking about. The athletic director for the Utah Utes, tweeted that we're not leaving. We're not leaving the Pac-12. Then don't. If you want to stay and rot and fester in that crap, go for it. All right. If you want to come to where the big boys play now, you want to come where the money is and where the exposure is, then this is where it's at. But if you want to stay, go stay. Kiss my ass. We don't need Utah. Utah needs us. That needs to be the attitude of the Big 12. All right. We don't need you Pac-12 teams. You need us. So don't wait. Don't blink. Come on board. If we give you an invite, don't send it back. Just come on. Now, do I think the Big 12 is ever going to catch the SEC or the Big 10? I'm 45, so probably not in my lifetime, all right, which is, if I'm lucky, 30 to 35 years. But no, in the next 30, 35 years, I don't see the Big 12 catching those two. However, we can be just back from, look at the ratings. Look at the ratings indicator of the championship games. That's about right. Those are the two big dogs, and right behind them is us. And I think that's where we're going to be. But in the immediate future, we're going to add 4 Pac-12 teams. More than likely 4. With Commissioner Yormark, he's put a big emphasis on marketing this conference as a destination to be for players, for advertisers. That's something that has been, let's just say, missing from the Big 12 for a very long time. And perception's reality. And, Yarmark knows that from the places he's come from Brooklyn, from the NBA. You got to get out there and market yourself. And that's something that we're going to see dividends from for a very long time. It's going to be fantastic. This is going to be an exciting conference, and it's going to be billed as an exciting conference. And we've already seen it already. That freaking conference game, Kansas State and TCU, was insane. It was great. Hell of a lot of fun. And that's how you market the Big 12. And that shit works. Don't think that it doesn't. It has worked for the SEC. The SEC's been 1-2 teams that are really great. They've had those seasons where a lot of the other teams are mediocre at best, but they're still seen as, God's freaking conference because they're marketed that way. Same thing with the Big 10. Huge fan bases in the Big 10, but they get marketed to as an elite conference. Even though it's been Ohio State and a bunch of also-rans, it doesn't matter. That's how they are. That's how they are portrayed to the public at large, as this freaking dominant tier of football. So yeah, marketing freaking works, and it will work for the Big 12. And I think by the time you get to 2031, ESPN is going to look at what they have in the Big 12 and say, holy shit, we have, this is incredibly valuable. And no, maybe, TCU or Baylor or Oklahoma State on their own isn't, overly valuable, but the entire conference in a whole damn sure is. At that point, you're going to see the money of the Big 12 go way up. Once they prove this and prove the ratings, it's all about the ratings. In Big 12 country, this is football country. We're going to watch the damn games. In Big 12 country, people love our conference. Yeah, there's some loud assholes in the Pac-12. There's some, there's some nice people that are kind of loud in the ACC. But, how many fans do you really have? And what we're finding out is that the Big 12 have a hell of a lot of fans, and it doesn't revolve around Texas and OU. It's for the whole conference. So I think I've made a pretty damn good, compelling case for the Big 12 being the number 3 conference in the country. And that's what I'm going to call it from now on this channel. We are the number 3 conference, not a tier 2, as I've had one of my people who like to comment on my channel, Mr. Tar Heel. It's not just going to be, oh, you're just going to be another tier 2 conference. No, we're going to be the number 3. There's going to be 3 power conferences, not 5. There's going to be 3, and we're going to be one of those. Everybody else can go into the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, or whatever. But no. When it comes to football, we're going to be number 3. When it comes to basketball, we're going to be number 1. Ain't no tier 2 jack shit. That's just the way it is. And that will become ever more evident as we go forward, year after year. Anyway, I'm excited, damn it, to be a Big 12 fan. I'm excited for TCU. I hope they beat the hell out of Michigan. Michigan's overrated. Kiss my ass. I ain't scared of no Michigan. Send that damn coach back to the NFL. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.